It's Tony Livesey on 5 Live. It's 10:30. Tonight, house prices have dropped for the first time in months. So is it a blip or the dreaded double dip? We want your stories tonight. Are you scared of putting your house up for sale? Are you worried about buying and selling your house? Or are you just getting on with it? Have you just sold it? Estate agents say don't worry, get on with it. Do you believe them? 0500 909 693. Also tonight, what wiped out dinosaurs 65 million years ago? We'll speak to one professor who says he's got the definitive answer and it wasn't an out-of-date cheese pie. Plus, is it okay for a woman to breastfeed anywhere in public? One charity's apologised to a mum who says she was sprayed with air freshener. That's when she was feeding her child in their shop. All that and stories of when we fancy people. Give us a ring, 0500 909 693. Text me, 85058. Before all that, let's get the latest BBC News on 5 Live now with Rachel Hodges.
The BBC has been told that 2 people who are close to the men suspected of kidnapping a British boy in Pakistan have been arrested. A police source also said they were confident that 5-year-old Sahil Saeed, who's from Oldham, would be freed within 24 hours. A man's been charged with the murders of his partner and their 10-month-old child. Anthony Marsh is accused of killing Stephanie Bellinger and their daughter Lily, whose bodies were found at their home in Totton in Hampshire last Saturday. The Conservatives say they've been given a clean bill of health following an inquiry into donations they received from a company owned by the party's deputy chairman, Lord Ashcroft. The Electoral Commission said there was no evidence that the company had been used as a front. The John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford says 4 children who died recently following heart surgery were all operated on by the same person. The hospital has suspended paediatric heart operations while an investigation is carried out. And Sweden's Sea Rescue Service says 4 passenger ferries with more than 1,000 people on board are trapped in ice in the Baltic Sea. They're stranded just off the Swedish coast. Rescuers say no one is hurt and they're not planning to evacuate anyone at the moment.
Very good. Thank you very much, Rachel. Rachel. Do you fancy anyone?
No, not currently.
No. Oh, okay. You don't fancy anyone at the moment?
No. Oh. Brad Pitt? Johnny Depp?
No, there's nobody around in your real life that you fancy.
No.
You don't have to name names.
No.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about fancying people. We've all done it. You've done it?
What have I in the past?
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
of course.
According to the Daily Telegraph today, men apparently... I wasn't really reading it then, I was just rustling it for a fact. Men apparently, according to research in the Daily Telegraph today, do foolish things when they're attracted to someone. They show off and it often goes wrong. But I think women do that as well.
No.
So, I want your stories tonight of when you fancied someone but it went slightly wrong. We were talking about this in the office earlier on, and someone who did want to remain nameless, but it's Helen, was saying she was in a nightclub and it had a revolving dance floor. And she saw this bloke coming around and she really liked him, so she did that sort of dancey pointy thing, and pursing your lips at him.
Yeah.
But the dance floor suddenly just slowed down.
Oh,
so
no.
she was in front of him for
painful.
about 4 minutes doing that dancey pointy thing.
Oh, see, I'm the complete opposite to that. If I fancy someone, I lose the ability to be able to speak to them or even look them in the eye. So this is not a good tactic because then they just think that I don't like them and I don't want to speak to them.
Well, when I fancy people, I always used to... I would never approach them. I almost had to have a note, or they had to wear like a sandwich board saying, it's all right, come and talk to me.
Yeah, going to get the friends to do the go-between like you did at school.
Yeah. Give us a ring, 0500 909 693. Unlike Rachel, we want your stories of when you fancy someone and it's gone badly wrong. 0500 909 693 or text me 85058. Shall we get the sport now with Paul Scott?
There will be no playoffs to decide which Premier League team will get the 4th Champions League spot. The idea was dismissed at a Premier League board meeting today with a lack of support. The logistics of when to play the matches also caused concern. Stade Francais have accused England of blackmail and a lack of respect. The RFU are refusing to allow flanker James Haskell to return to his club in France this weekend, despite there being no Six Nations matches. There's a disagreement over the finer details of Haskell's contract. The RFU says Haskell has an agreement with Stade that he will not be released during elite player squad periods. England will be without bowler Ryan Sidebottom for the forthcoming 2-match test series in Bangladesh. He's returned home with a thigh injury. The third one-day international gets underway at 3 o'clock in the morning. And former world champion Ken Doherty is 1 match away from qualifying for next month's World Snooker Championships. He beat Jimmy White 10 frames to 3 and now faces Joe Swale on Monday for a place at the Crucible.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Hello, BBC.
Monday to Thursday nights from 10:30. Tony Livesey. Call 0500 909 693. Calls are free from most landlines, but some networks and mobile operators will charge. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate. This is 5 Live.
Yes, it is 5 Live. So instead, as well as sending me texts and messages and giving us a ring about when you've fancied someone and it's gone wrong, I want to put you to the test as well tonight. Rachel, do you ever do pub quizzes?
Yes, all the time. I love them.
Are you a bit of a nerd?
Yes.
What's your team name? Have you got one? Or do you make one up every time?
I tend to make up a different and topical one every time.
I always find that the most embarrassing bit, having to make up a witty pub team name.
Or I try and make the team name something that will be really embarrassing for the quizmaster to read out every time.
Now that's something we could ask people to text in tonight. Embarrassing. You'll have to read them out though. Embarrassing pub team names. That'd be good. Do that. But also, there's a bar in Belfast that's taken the drastic step of banning mobile phones because they say everyone cheats now. Everyone Googles as soon as questions are asked. So I thought tonight, with the army of listeners, millions of you out there, someone's going to have the answer to this. I think I'm asking the impossible. Is there a question at which it's impossible to cheat? Now, Rachel, you're going to be our cheat tonight.
Yeah, so I'm armed with the power of the Google search engine and other search engines.
You're Rachel Google tonight, or any other search engine, and you've got to. If someone comes up with a question that they think it's impossible to cheat at, you are going to see if you can cheat in a minute. Okay?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm on Dictionary Corner on Countdown or something.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Now we're going to help quiz setters everywhere with this. So give us your questions. A question at which it's impossible to cheat. Text us 85058, and if you do want to put in an embarrassing quiz team name as well for Rachel,
which I may not read out,
for Rachel Hodges to read out, then you can do that as well. You know the numbers. You're listening to Tony Livesey on 5 Live. It's Thursday already and it's 23 minutes to 11. Straight to our big debate. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the housing market, the Halifax says it's fallen again by 1.5%. Prices had been slowly rising, but this is the first fall since last June. So is it a blip or is it the dreaded double dip? The Bank of England today said it was keeping interest rates at a low 0.5%. So is your mortgage still low, or are you struggling to get a decent rate from the banks, if they'll lend to you at all? I want to hear your stories tonight. Essentially, what are you doing? I've been driving around and I've seen more and more for sale signs outside houses. So are people getting a little more confident? Has that confidence brought prices down again because more houses are getting on the market? Are you sat at home afraid to even get your house valued? I bet a lot of people are wondering, well, I've not had my house valued for 10 years. I don't even ask now because it could be lower than last time I checked. Talk to me about how the market's affecting you. 0500 909 693. Estate agents, by and large, are saying, don't worry, get in the market. Do you believe them? 0500 909 693. Jonathan Davis is a property expert and investment advisor. And Peter Rawlings joins me as well, the managing director of London estate agents Marsh and Parsons. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening. Hi there.
Jonathan, first of all, a drop in the market. Should we all be running around panicking? How should we react to these monthly figures?
Well, first of all, there's no all about it because about a third of people aren't in the market. It is the beginning of the resumption of the downtrend, which started in September 2007, which was delayed last year by the biggest government stimulus in history, the slashing of interest rates. And the downtrend will continue for the next, we estimate, 2, 3, maybe 4 years.
What? Prices are going to drop for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, you say?
You know, you sound very shocked there, but there'll be a lot of people who'll be delighted by that because they're not up to their eyeballs in debt, and they're waiting for prices to become sensible again, which inevitably will happen with the ongoing recession that we will be in.
Hasn't that been the case recently, though, when the housing markets appeared, anyway, to some people to have bottomed out? Have some buyers gone in at that point? Are you saying they should have waited because it's going to get even lower then?
Yeah, well, you know, that's investor psychology largely. That, you know, when there's a dip in prices, people think they're buying in with a bargain. And certainly last year people did, of course, buy. but still at half the numbers of the years leading up to the bubble, which ended in 2007. And indeed, the numbers of transactions in January were a third of long-term numbers. And just finally, one final point, buy-to-let was a major fuel for the bubble. And yet, in 2009, there were only literally a quarter of buy-to-let mortgages than 2007. There's no demand, nothing compared to what the estate agents and many in the media are saying.
Okay.
The only reason why there's a rise in prices last year is because people didn't put their properties on the market, but they will be forced to going forward because of the recession.
All right, well, look, I'll get Peter Rawlings' response to that in just a second. He is an estate agent, but let's speak to Jamie in Somerset as well. Good evening, Jamie.
Hello, Tony.
Hiya. Now, you're an estate agent as well, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So what do you make of what Jonathan's just said? It looks pretty a gloomy prognosis.
Well, certainly from where I am, the activity levels have picked up considerably. There's more properties coming onto the market, and our viewing levels are up. I think the slump in the market initially this year was as a result of the bad weather. I'm certain of that, and we're now seeing, as I said, more properties coming up for sale and a lot more demand, and the sales are coming through. So I'm really optimistic about it.
I mean, Jonathan's listening. What do you make of what he said, that he sees that house prices are going to fall for the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I thought you were
Sorry, no, I'll let Jamie have a go first.
Sorry,
Jonathan.
yeah.
Go on, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I can only look at what's happening at the moment, and certainly my viewpoint is that certainly prices this year are going to hold firm. I don't see. I appreciate I'm only talking about my area, but certainly there is a decent demand in my area.
Somerset's on the up.
Yeah, without doubt.
Jamie, thanks for your call. Let's have a quick chat with Stephen in Leeds as well. Hello, Stephen.
Good evening.
Stephen, what's happening in your area then? In Yorkshire?
The house prices, it's been a myth that house prices are going up. You see, the problem that I've got is that what's the average wage in this country? 20 grand, 25 grand, 20 grand? And the average house price, I think, is about 170 grand.
I think 160 something, yeah.
160 something, that's 8 times a multiplier. People can't afford to buy. We've always had this problem in this country where the housing market is make a quick buck. It's not somewhere to live in. We've got to get away from this mentality of buying a home so we can sell it on in a year's time and make a quick buck. A house is to live in, so you can plan your future with your wife, with your family. People need stability, and really. It's always driven by the media and one thing or another. House prices going up, house prices going up. House prices are still too high by about £30,000.
So you'll be pleased then to hear Jonathan Davies say they're going to drop for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, I don't need anybody to tell me because I'm usually correct in my forecast.
I'm sure you are,
Yeah,
Steve.
no, and honestly, I've always had this problem with people who are making a quick buck. I don't want to go back to the buy-to-let market because the buy-to-let market was one of the main causes of the housing collapse, to be quite honest.
OK, Stephen, thanks for your call, mate. There we are, Stephen in Leeds. 0500 909 693 if you want to join in, if you've got anything to say, or text us 85058. Peter Rawlings, Managing Director of London Estate Agents Marsh & Parsons. You've been listening to all that. Well, if you believe what Jonathan Davies has to say, you'd be running for the hills right now.
I would. Yeah, you're right. Jonathan's been banging this drum for about 8 years now, and
Not true.
It's true. Jonathan, you and I were on this programme about 4 years ago.
2005.
And before that,
late 2006, we were on the programme, and I have no idea where you get your 8 years from.
Well,
You've
Jonathan,
used the same statistic before. Stop lying, like estate agents normally do. Stop lying.
Jonathan, we're not going to argue over a calendar.
Oh dear, Jonathan.
Peter, let's talk about today's
You've
figures,
been wrong
Peter,
for the last 4 years, Peter, and you're still wrong when you say that there's a great market out there. There's a dreadful market out there.
All right, Jonathan, you've had a go. Just let Peter have a say. Then
Jonathan, I work in the market every day of my life, and last February I wrote on my blog that I saw the market coming to a halt, the fall getting better, many more people in the market, and the market starting to rise. It rose last year. Every single indicator, even from your website, Jonathan.
What website?
Housepricecrash.com.
That's not my website.
Well, it's got a big quote here from your housepricecrash.co.uk. Jonathan Davis, September 2008, saying prices were going to fall 40 to 50%.
Again, I don't know where you get your facts from. Okay, so I commented on the website.
I'm looking at it here,
guys, we're in danger of it all getting very personal when there's a lot of people listening to this who want to know what to do with their house. Let's just take it back, Peter, to the current day. House prices have fallen by 1.5%, say the Halifax. Does that mean, as Jonathan says, that it's a precursor to a 2-year dip, or is it just a blip and people can say, well, OK, I'm still going to put my house on the market tomorrow, I've got to have confidence?
It's an absolute blip. It really is a one-month blip. I would bet you any money you like that next month it'll be it'll be positive.
And what do you put the blip down to then?
The weather. January is always a poor month. People getting over Christmas, getting their lives back together, not spending money, quite frankly. December wasn't a very good month either.
What's your experience, Peter? You're on the ground. Do you see? I think I've seen in my area more for sale boards going up. Is that the case?
Jonathan's right. The problem last year was a lack of stock to sell, which pushed prices up. Already this year, we've seen much more stock coming on the market because people are confident once again that actually they can move. They can move out of their one-bedroom flat into a two-bedroom flat. They can move out of a flat into a house because they've had children. It's getting back to normal. No one wants prices to rocket up. It's bad for the country, it's bad for me, it's bad for you. But average good growth, I'm reckoning 5 to 7% this year, is very healthy for us all. And the buy-to-let market will absolutely come back this year. Where are you going to get an income from your investment other than in property at the moment? You're not getting it in the banks, you're not getting it in any savings accounts. You're going to get 4 to 5% by buying a property plus capital appreciation. Jonathan's a financial advisor. He should be advising his clients to buy property. OK, well, that's the point I was going to put to you, Jonathan. I take it you're obviously not advising your clients to do that at the moment, then?
In 2005 is when we stopped recommending to people to invest in property. In 2006, we actively recommended to divest of excess property when estate agents were saying to buy. And in 2007, Peter Rawlings was still saying buy. And in the next 16 months, house prices fell 25%. So him and his crowd put people into negative equity.
Oh, that's ridiculous, Jonathan. I mean, honestly, for goodness sake, we're estate agents. What do you mean put people into negative equity? For goodness sake, what do you think we do, brainwash them? It's complete madness.
It's your job to sell property, whatever the price is. And
well,
it's my job.
Is.
Exactly. And people are listening to what you just said there. And it's my job to stop people from losing money. And absolutely, to answer your question, we are absolutely steering clear of property. We're not touching with a barge pole. Okay. The banks are not lending. Taxes are going up. Public sector spending is going down. Interest rates will be going up, not necessarily the Bank of England rate, but mortgage rates.
Okay.
You name it, this is not conducive to a strong housing market.
All right, Jonathan, stay there. Peter, stay there as well. Lots of calls coming on this. I'll be with Dean and Vicky in just a second. But Kate Faulkner's been listening to that. She's a property expert and author of the Which Buy, Sell, Move House book. Hello, Kate.
Hi there.
Did I get that title right then?
Yes, you did. Well done.
The question mark thrown in the middle of it threw me. Kate, what's your reaction then to what you've been hearing?
I think what I get really frustrated at is that I understand why Jonathan is saying what he's saying, and I understand why Peter's saying what he's saying. The fact of the matter is that we are all basing this whole conversation about property price surveys that are no use to somebody who is living in High Barnet, somebody and looking to trade down. He's completely mortgage-free, wife's just died, and needs to move somewhere else near his family. And this conversation will be frightening the life out of that person. And this is what makes me really angry, because I deal with inquiries from people who will not sleep at night because of the things that are being said, and they end up being confused. And the fact of the matter is that basing your decision on property price surveys when we're in a really weird statistical situation, so comparing this year to what's happening based on last year, is wrong. We should be looking at what happened versus 2007 when the prices went down and versus the lowest point, which we hit about May or June last year.
So what should we do? Compare our house price now to what it was before the dip?
Yeah, and also there's two things. There's a financial situation here, and I think this is what we get caught up in a little bit, rather than the personal circumstance. I've had inquiries recently, for example, I've got a guy, he's really not sure whether to trade up or not at the moment. He's stuck in a two-bed flat, got one kid and there's another on the way. So is Jonathan saying, well, you shouldn't buy, you shouldn't do that? They need to get their kids into a certain school.
Absolutely.
Renting is not something that is really an option for them. They don't want to do it. And they're getting frightened.
Why isn't it an option?
For the simple reason that, for example, I spoke to somebody 2 months ago. They have been, over the last 2 years, told 3 times they're going to have to move out of their property because the landlord wants to move back.
Then they should have got a 2 or 3 year lease.
It doesn't matter because they can still get chucked out, Jonathan. And I think you can't force people into that situation. What you've got to do is understand what's happening in the local market and forget these national property prices. I'll give an example. The gentleman mentioned affordability earlier on. If you take the Nottingham prices that we've got, the average house price here is £123,000. Now, you can buy a 3-bed property for £60,000.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do that. It might not be the area you want, but it's possible.
Absolutely.
So forget working on averages. They really do not help local people. What you need to look at is, if you find a long street in your local area, typically, if the market is a poor market, you'll probably see 10 boards and they'll all be for sale. And that's what happened a couple of years ago when the market got really bad and we couldn't get lending. Now there are areas that might only have 2 boards that are sold. They're still not great areas to buy. And if you're buying as a first-time buyer, then that market may well go down. And Jonathan's quite right on that. There are some areas that might continue to go down. There are other areas that we're picking up where 6 or 7 out of the 10 properties for sale are sold.
So
and people are going to stay there for the next 20 years.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what happens.
So what we're saying here then, Kate, is Jonathan and Peter can both be right, really? There is no black and white answer.
They can both be right.
Okay. Oh dear.
And it's about your personal circumstances. But it's about your personal circumstances, your ability to pay the mortgage.
Okay.
How stressed would you be if prices went down by 10%? And that is an issue.
And what if you lose your job? What if you lose your income?
Well, what if you get cancer?
What if you get run over?
What if you get run over tomorrow?
Jonathan.
I mean, Jonathan, all of these things can happen. You can't base every decision on that.
What if you get repossessed?
All right.
What if you lose all your money?
Kate,
Okay,
Peter,
well,
Jonathan.
let's take repossession, though.
Kate, Peter,
there are
Jonathan.
less repossessions now than there were pre-credit crunch.
All right,
Oh,
Kate,
dear.
wait there for just a second. Peter and
Will
Jonathan
do.
as well. Let's speak to Dean in Herefordshire. I think it could be Hertfordshire. There's a letter missing either way. Hello, Dean.
Hello, it's Hertfordshire, actually.
It's a T that's missing, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Dean, you're a mortgage broker.
Yeah, I've been in the business for 18 years, and this is the busiest I've ever been, including June, July, May, the busy months you would expect. I'm a one-man band. I have 22 mortgages on my books at the moment.
Why do you think that's the case, Dean?
I don't know. I really don't know. Last year, over half my business was insurance. I couldn't get a mortgage customer for love nor money, and suddenly, round about mid-November, things started to pick up. They even picked up during the Christmas break, and this year it's just been non-stop. But somebody made the point earlier that the banks are not lending. Most of the banks are finding almost bizarre reasons to delay lending money. Most of them are now moving to mortgage off, and most of them that I've got on my books have been moving this week because I've basically taken the week off to phone up the banks and say, come on, you've got this information.
So you're having a busy time of it, Dean?
Yeah, very much so.
Listen,
yeah, very much
thanks
so.
for your call, mate. Thanks. Mixed messages we're getting tonight. Vic's in London. Hello, Vic.
Oh, good evening, Tony.
Hiya. What's your story, Vic?
Well, Tony, this is about my daughter Claire. She was selling a 3-bedroom Victorian apartment in North Kensington which is in Notting Hill, 3 years ago, and it was valued at £480,000.
Yeah.
And then the market started to dip. She then went to America. She rented it out for 3 years, Tony. She came back. She's went back to 2 estate agents, 2 quite reputable ones here in Notting Hill, and both of them have said now that she'll get either that price or up to 500,000. Now, would that be accurate, Tony? You've got the experts there, Tony. What do they think?
Well, I've got an office in North Kent, so I know it really well. Yeah, I mean, it would be accurate, and more than that. I mean, prices are up in central London, and I know it's a very limited area. Prices are up higher than they were in 2008 in many cases, so it doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should
Well,
come and see me for that one, please.
There we are, a bit of touting as well. That's good news
Well,
for you,
she'll
Vic.
be absolutely delighted when I tell her this.
Okay. A nice one, Vic. Thank you.
I really appreciate that, Tony.
Cheers, mate.
Good
Bye-bye,
to-
bye-bye. Vic getting some private advice there. At taxpayers' expense, I don't know. All right, Jonathan, last word to you for now. Peter in a moment. Just again, give us a two-sentence scenario that you see unfolding. We're going to record it, and I'm going to play it back to you. We'll see if it happens.
By all means, and the same thing happened 2 or 3 years ago, and I was perfectly right. I said prices would fall 25%, and they did. And I believe that prices will fall 20 to 30% from now over the next 2 or 3 years.
OK, thanks very much. Peter Rawlings?
I think, well, not surprisingly, I think Jonathan totally wrong. I think prices will rise gradually. I think they'll rise 5 or 6% this year. I think they'll rise probably the same sort of thing for the next 2 to 3 years.
OK, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Jonathan and Peter there. You're listening to Tony Livesey on 5 Live. It's 5 minutes to 11.